The move to divide Australia and Australians by race, of which the proposed national voice is just one part, is gathering pace. Last week in Queensland, the state Labor government passed legislation enabling treaties to be concluded between the government and some 150 separate local Aboriginal groups. Treaties were a key demand of the Uluru Statement, along with a voice and so-called truth-telling that's essentially the pejorative rewriting of our history to make whitefellas the villains. Constitutionally entrenching a voice is the Prime Minister's immediate priority, but he's also committed to delivering in full, that's the term he uses, all three Uluru Statement objectives. So there won't just be these treaties between hundreds of local Aboriginal groups at a state level, there'll be treaties at a federal level as well. And we're starting to learn just how extensive these might be. For instance, today the head of the Peta Aboriginal Corporation in Western Queensland's Channel Country, well, he says that part of a treaty between his body and the Queensland government should be the right to block mining projects on traditional land. Now, you and I don't have the right ourselves to block mining projects on our land, so why should Indigenous groups have that right over and above the rights available to everyone else? Of course, mining companies already have to negotiate extensively with native title holders if they want to mine on traditional land. But the head of the Peta Corporation says that Aboriginal people need, and I quote, an actual say, he says, not a tokenistic say, a right of veto, if you like. Again, you and I don't have that veto right. Farmers don't have it either, because the law says that the minerals in the ground belong to the Crown, to every resident of the state, not just the landholder. So where they are found, there's a right for everyone to use them for everyone's benefit. And of course, the royalties paid by miners are a key source of revenue into state government coffers. As also reported today, the Queensland minister responsible for treaty negotiations told the Australian newspaper that treaties could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars apiece, reflecting, he said, the devastating impact of British colonialisation on Queensland's Indigenous people. Typically, he neglected to mention the much greater upside of settlement for most Aboriginal people, namely health and education, the rule of law, and all the comforts of modern life. Notwithstanding the reality, of course, if it hadn't been for the British, it would be fanciful to think that Australia would be unsettled today, 235 years on from the first fleet arriving. But this treaty talk in Queensland is a good indicator of what to expect everywhere under the wave of indigenisation that Labor is fostering. The objective of the Peta Corporation, says its head, is to be self-sustaining and to be able to employ its own people. That could include ownership of all the mining, pastoral and tourism businesses it currently contracts workers to. But that would turn them into an Indigenous version of a state-owned enterprise that are run to employ people, but not to make a profit or deliver a service. It would be the advent of socialism throughout remote Australia, with the taxpayer inevitably called upon to sustain it. One of the members of the Queensland Government's new Truth and Treaty body, former Social Justice Commissioner Mick Gooda, says that it's about sovereignty. And I quote him here, just about every treaty party would push for joint decision-making on all elements of government services, such as education, he says, health, youth justice and housing. It could even extend, says Mick Gooda, to the police needing to ask local elders to arrest suspects. So forget the law applying to everyone regardless of race. If permission from local elders is required, you can see what sort of massive change is coming. Essentially, it's about unwinding the last 2 centuries of the sovereignty of the Crown and ensuring that no big decisions can be made in this country without Aboriginal consent. Not advice, not consultation, but consent. If there's any upside here, a referendum at least gives every Australian a chance to vote on all of this. And if you don't like where things are headed, from the permanent flying of the Aboriginal flag co-equally with our one and only national flag, to the now routine Indigenous welcomes to country as if somehow it's their country, not ours as well, if you don't like the idea of rewriting history or spending taxpayer billions on treaties, well, coming soon is your chance to just vote no.